We all know the feeling. You're scrolling through your annual youth intake, filtering through the 15-year-old with half a star current ability, then you see him, the elusive 5-star potential Wonderkid. He's got 15 finishing, 14 dribbling, and a whole career ahead of him. But what actually determines if he becomes the next Lionel Messi, or if he ends up bouncing around the Vanarama National League by age 24? Most players think it's about game time and training facilities. Football Manager is a psychological engine disguised as a spreadsheet. Lying beneath the surface of every player are hidden mental attributes: professionalism, ambition, temperament, handling pressure. These stats dictate how a player reacts to a bad tackle, a harsh team talk, or multi-million-pound transfer rumour. So I wanted to test something. In the real world, we debate nature versus nurture. Take a player with all the talent in the world and drop him into a toxic, high-pressure environment. Will his environment break his mind? If you take the exact clone and put him in a nurturing, stable club, will he become a legend? Welcome to the twin experiment. Meet Elias and Julian Vance, identical twins, born on the exact same day in London. I used a pre-game editor to ensure they are carbon copies of each other, down to the finest detail. They are both 15 years old. They both have a current ability of 110, a stereo potential ability of 185. Placing them in the same bracket as Wayne Rooney when he burst onto the scene. But more importantly, their psychological profiles are identical. They're completely average: professionalism 12, ambition 14, handling pressure 9. They aren't mentally fragile, but they aren't iron-willed leaders either. They are blank slates, malleable, waiting to be shaped by managers who guide them. I placed Elias Vance at Ajax, a club renowned for its youth academy, stability, and a clear pathway to the first team. And I passed him placed his brother Julian Vance at Chelsea, a club synonymous with managerial chaos, bloated wage bills, an army of loan players, and a club owner who demands instant Champions League glory. Then I went on holiday for 15 years. I didn't manage a single game, just let the simulation run. I let the match engine and the AI managers dictate their lives. What I woke up to 15 years later was a digital tragedy. This is a story for how an environment can build a god or completely destroy a man. Let's look at the first 5 years of the simulation, ages 15 to 19, the formative years. At Ajax, Elias Vance was treated exactly how you expect a prize asset to be treated. For the first 2 years, he didn't touch the first team. He was kept in the under-19s, dominating youth leagues, protected from media spotlight. If you look at his history tab, something crucial happened in 2027. Ajax manager placed Elias in a mentoring group with a veteran captain, a player with a model citizen personality. Because Elias was young and his personality was still forming, the veteran's mindset started to bleed into him. By age 18, Elias' determination had ticked up from 13 to 16, his hidden professionalism stat rose from 12 to 15. Ajax was slowly turning him into a machine. He made his first team debut at 18, scoring off the bench in a comfortable 3-0 win over Hurricane. Low pressure, high reward. Now, let's look at his brother. Julian's time at Chelsea was a psychological meat grinder. His first 3 years at the club, Chelsea sacked 4 different managers. Every time a new manager came in, they brought a new tactical philosophy, and more importantly, they bought 3 new £80 million wingers. Julian was completely buried in the depth chart. Instead of mentoring him, Chelsea does exactly what they do best. They send him to the loan army. At 17, Julian was shipped on loan to Vitesse. Couldn't speak the language, and his adaptation rating was low. He was miserable. He averaged a 6.4 match rating and was dropped to that bench. The next season, Chelsea panicked and recalled him, only to immediately loan him out to Millwall in the Championship, a team fighting a brutal relegation battle. Remember that he didn't have the impressive stat of 9? Millwall was a toxic dressing room. They were losing every week. The fans were turning on the players. Look what the environment did to his mind. Julian was constantly playing high-pressure, negative morale environments, with no senior mentors to guide him. His hidden control as his stats spiked, his temperament collapsed. By age 19, Julian Vance was already complaining to the press about his lack of playing time at Chelsea, demanding a transfer and already skipping training. They had the exact same DNA, but at 19 years old, Elias was lifting the Eredivisie trophy while Julian was alienated in West London, arguing with the manager who wouldn't even be there by Christmas. As they entered the early 20s, the gaps between the twins became even clearer. Let's talk about how the match engine processes current ability growth. To reach your potential ability, you need 3 things: excellent training facilities at high level of professionalism, and a consistent match rating above 7 in an appropriately reputable league. Elias Vance had all 3. At 21, he became Ajax's starting striker. The system was built around him. He was playing Champions League group stage football, scoring 20 goals a season. His current ability skyrocketed to 165. He was a world-class operator. He was happy. His loyalty stat naturally increased because Ajax was the only home he'd ever known. When European giants came knocking with £100 million bids, Elias didn't kick up a fuss. His agent didn't demand a move. Why? Because that early mentoring had installed a professional personality in him. He just trusted the process. Julian, on the other hand, was a cautionary tale of the modern game. At age 21, his contract at Chelsea was expiring. He made a total of 4 senior appearances for the club. His morale was permanently locked abysmal. He finally forced a way out from the club on a free transfer, signing for Newcastle United. This should have been a fresh start, but the psychological damage was already done. Because of professionalism that actually regressed during his chaotic loan spells, Julian wasn't training well, and when players don't train well, the physical attributes stall. More devastatingly, the injury opponents gets triggered way more often. In his first season at Newcastle, Julian pulled his hamstring twice. He missed 4 months of football. When he came back, the team was underperforming because his handling pressure stat was abysmally low. He choked in big games. His inconsistency attribute never developed. He would score a hat-trick against the League 2 side in the Cup, but it goes through the next 6 Premier League games with the 6.2 rating. The fans turned on him, the media labelled him a flop, and then the breaking point. In 2033, at age 23, Julian Vance confronted the Newcastle manager about being dropped for the Carabao Cup final. With his controversy stat now dangerously high, the game's AI calculated that Julian wouldn't just complain, he would leak the story to the press. He fractured the dressing room, cliques formed, the manager trying to save his own job biased Julian to the under-21s. For 2 entire years, during what should have been his physical peak, Julian Vance played youth football. His current ability permanently froze at 138. He would never ever reach his 185 potential. That window has closed. Fast forward to age 26, the peak years of a striker's career. Elias Vance had stayed at Ajax. He was now club captain. His personality was resolute. His attributes were a sea of 18s and 19s. He even had 94 caps for the England national team. In May of 2036, he led Ajax to a Champions League final against Real Madrid. Look at his composure, 18. Look at his pressure rating, 16. Look at the biggest game of his life. Elias Vance didn't even blink. He scored a winning goal. He left the biggest trophy in European football. He was immortalised as an Ajax legend, a player who rewarded the club that nurtured him from a boy into a man. Whereas Julian, on the night his identical twin won the Champions League, he was sitting on the bench for Trabzonspor in Turkey. After his contract at Newcastle was mutually terminated, Julian became a mercenary with a fickle personality. He chased wage packets. He spent 1 year in France, 18 months in Saudi Arabia, and finally washed up in the Turkish league. His physical attributes had started to decline early because of his low professionalism. He had lost his pace, and because he never developed the elite mental attributes needed to compensate for loss of physical speed, things like anticipation, vision, and off the ball, it became a liability. At 26 years old, Julian Vance was completely broken. His current ability was a meagre 131. He never made a single appearance in the England national team. He had 0 major trophies to his name. He spent his days arguing with his teammates, complaining about the training facilities, and wondering why the game had just passed him by. At age 30, both players effectively ended their peak years. I stopped the simulation here because the point had been definitely proven. Let's do the autopsy. Elias Vance, 412 club appearances, 287 goals, 3 Eredivisie titles, 1 Champions League, a current ability of 178 out of 185. Ajax club legend. Julian Vance, his twin brother, 214 club appearances across 8 different clubs, 64 goals, 0 major trophies, a current peak ability of 138, a forgotten Wonderkid. This is the genius and the cruelty of football manager. Julian Vance had been sent to Ajax at 15 years old. He would have lifted that Champions League trophy. He had the exact same code, the exact same numbers, and the exact same infinite seeing as his brother. But a football club is an ecosystem. When you drop a vulnerable, developing mind into a chaotic environment, When you subject a young player to managerial sackings, high-pressure relegation battles, constant loans, and a lack of mentorship, you don't just stunt their technical growth, you permanently alter their psychology. Julian didn't fail because he lacked talent. He failed because Chelsea's culture stripped away his professionalism, shattered his confidence, and turned him into a toxic asset. Elias succeeded because Ajax protected his mind while they developed his feet. So next time you boot up a save and you sign that 15-year-old South American Wonderkid for 15 million, before you throw him straight into a Premier League relegation dogfight or loan him out to a struggling team in the Bundesliga, remember the Vance twins. You aren't just managing attributes on a spreadsheet, you're managing an environment. And the environment always wins. I've been Finn Simmons, thank you for watching.